Locked and loaded. Hello there, I'm Greg, and I'm making an incinerator unit. I know a flamethrower when I see one, from Alien. All Aliens films have their merits, but only Alien is a masterpiece. In the film, Yaphet Kotto's character Parker says he can knock up 3 of these incinerator units in 20 minutes. I made one in about 2 weeks. This thing is a festival of greeblies, so it's lots of work, lots of fun, and one of the best things I've ever made, I think. I'm doing more cosplay for the Comic-Con that I'm doing later in the year. So there will be full Nostromo crew cosplay on this channel in the near future, but I thought I'd start with this season's must-have accessory, the incinerator unit. It's a pretty long and involved process, and this is a pretty long and involved video, so without further ado, let's get going. We're going to design and print out paper templates, then we're going to gather together all our greeblies and details based on those templates, make the basic body, make the wand, which is the very detailed prong on the side, make the gas tanks, detail the whole thing, paint the whole thing, weather the whole thing, and then we'll see the finished thing. Let's go! As with my Ghostbusters walkie-talkie, I want paper templates. So first I gathered a lot of references, but then I found Max Smith. Full credit goes to Max Smith on ArtStation for this 3D model, without which I don't think I could have done this. Not only are there all these stills, but also there's this 3D turnaround where you can just twist it, turn it, say is this parallel to this from underneath? How are these two things? Are they in parallel? Is this shorter? Just really, really useful. So thank you, Max Smith. I took 2 different versions of each of his images from various angles, combined them in Photoshop to make a simple line drawing using posterize or find edges or one of those filters. Then, how big should it be? Google Alien Flamethrower prop dimensions, don't even need to open it, it says it right there, 86 centimeters. That's the only measurement I had for this whole build, is that it's 86 centimeters long. Make your image 86 centimeters long, and then drag that big image into, if you've got an A4 printer, or indeed if your wife has an A4 printer, drag them in and break it down into A4 pages. These templates are available as a free download to anyone on my Patreon page. Thanks. Take your little memory stick into your wife's room and say, will you print this for me please? And then using the window and the lots of little registration crosses I put around the image, piece it all together. And then you have your paper template so they're the right size, and it's great. Right then, do I use this bit? Do I? I might. I'm not going to do the full shopping list because there's just too much stuff. This looks like I've thrown a bin of junk onto the table, but this is organised. These bits are laid out on my printouts of where they might go. The only things I've bought in especially are 2 of these diamond plate hooks for the strap to attach to, and 2 of these radiator knobs, which are a close enough shape to that knob there and that knob there. But we've got Playmobil helicopter parts, bits of a Batcave diorama, peppercorn tubes and other bits of piping, Kinder Egg cartons, metal bits, bulldog clips for the trigger, toy pipes, a watch strap, pens, glue stick, lateral flow tests, kitchen cabinet shelf liner, in case I need to put rings around anything, pipes and connectors, clothes pegs, a load of food bag clips and clippy coat hanger pincers, this bath toy, some perm clips, toy train parts, and embroidery mesh. Now I've documented all this, I can move it and start cutting out my panels. Making the body. The body oddy oddy. So this is thin chipboard or MDF or whatever the board from the back of a picture frame is, because it's nice rigid wood that you can cut by hand just with a Stanley knife. Get a metal edged ruler, or get a bandsaw ideally, but rulers are cheaper. Here I've just cut out the 2 detailed sides of my box, and I've just got a long strip that is the depth of the box. Mitre shears. Thank you to Queen City Minis for turning me on to mitre shears. Whether you use them to cut at a precise angle or not, they just cut things really well. And again, talking of wrists, it saves your wrist. It's basically a Stanley knife blade in some very tough scissors. So I've cut pipes with them and square dowels and all sorts of stuff. Square dowels. Square dowels. Square dowels as my edge brackets. This is really simple stuff. There's probably a better, cleaner way of doing this, but in the words of Patrick Bateman, the American Psycho himself, what's inside doesn't matter. The inside is lots of bits of this square dowel to square off the edges, using my Lego jig to make the sides at right angles, tacking it or gluing it in place with super glue and super glue activator. Wood glue's probably stronger and better, but I'm not waiting around. I want this stuck and done. Using my Lego jig again for the right angle corners, And on the inside, it's just a mass of hot glue. Hot glue? It'll do. For the handles, cut out the shape of the handle, colour over the edge of it to get a sort of negative space, and then I'm going to screw together 2 bits of this thick MDF so that I can make 2 handles the same at the same time, which I'm just cutting out with my jigsaw. Then unscrew them, and just for the fine finger grip details I'm using my rotary tool out of frame, because that's private. MDF. MDF is sawdust and glue pressed together into wood-like sheets. So these edges go very gritty, grainy and rough when you get paint or glue on them, and take quite a lot of sanding. So I thought the sooner the better, get a layer of something on there, so I'm just skinning them with wood glue. This trigger system, we'll call it a system, very proud of this. I was going to use just the spring from some clothes pegs, but then I thought, well, why remove the peg part of the peg? Because this is all hidden up inside the body of the gun, so you just cut the back part off, take off the front, screw it into the front of the handle. I also attached it with a cable tie and some tape, and there's your trigger. And if the handles aren't quite square enough and it bugs you the next day, do it again. Maybe wasted an afternoon there. Anyway, these handles, as you can see, I've just put them up through the slots, and then I've put blocks of wood underneath each one that's the right depth and screwed down into that wood to space them out correctly. Had to cut a bit of a right angle out of the back handle to fit around this back angle I'm putting in. So you find your way. And my hot glue has now progressed on from black goth glue to some wood glue hot glue sticks that I found at scrap. Does it make any difference? I don't know. One's black and one's yellow. Right, the muzzle, or the emitter. This front part is made from the black neck of a lamp, which I'm just capping off with a white plastic disc that came from a cake icing syringe. Holding it on there with super glue, just rattling the baking soda around inside to kind of concrete it on there. And then the front is the top cap off the flame effect LED bulb I used when I made a Doctor Who Brain of Morbius. And then this back piece is the collar you put around the bottom of a radiator pipe, and a white plastic toy wheel. It's a lot like doing a jigsaw when you've got a paper template, because you're finding bits and putting them and thinking, no, yes. Okay, these 2 barrels are made from our old tea towel rail, and all I did was put them through 2 holes, then tape a bit of square dowel between them very tightly to hold them equally spaced while all the hot glue on the inside dried. So simple, so crude. I'm just making this up as I go along. Then once the pipes are inside the body of the thing, put the square dowel back between them, hold that tight with a cable tie, and then just splunge a load of hot glue in there, because hot glue, it'll do. There are 4 hexagonal bolts in the top and bottom of the gun. Didn't have any hex head bolts, but I thought, well, I've got these small square head bolts, so if I put the bolt up from the inside and put the nut on the outside, then that's a hexagon. It's not screen accurate, but it's screen fine. Then how am I going to attach the remaining side? These 2 blocks of wood, these are just play blocks from a kid's set of wood blocks I got from a charity shop that happen to be the exact width and depth of the gun body. So I've just put those on the inside so that I can then screw the remaining side into them. For the drain pipe that goes on the back, I've just put a wooden strut across it, screws on the outside, hot glue on the inside. Not granny grating, this is embroidery mesh. Embroidery's for everyone, not just grannies, so not granny grating. Embroidery mesh, it's true what they say, it really doesn't stick to anything. So just remortgaged the house, bought a few gallons of super glue, and it's on there. I think it's on there. Doesn't take paint very well either, but one of the things that makes this prop not too intimidating is just how crusty and weathered it is. So if the paint falls off, it's free weathering. This I've used before is right angle. It's just a plastic right angle. You buy it in 240cm strips from the hardware store. I recommend it, because if you've got a lot of different surfaces and edges and they just meet at a rough corner, and you stick a bit of this over it, and it's tidy. How am I going to attach this vent box? Could have thought about that sooner, but let's figure it out now. So I've put 2 wood blocks across the bottom, held in with super glue and hot glue, and then removing the block I put inside there because it was in the way of my screwdriver, screwed up into those 2 struts. And now finally, having decided there's nothing else I need to do inside this thing before I seal it up, lip of wood glue around the outside, and put the remaining side on and screw down into those 2 blocks. And it is boxed in permanently. Again, with MDF, you want to get a skin on it ASAP, So this is wood glue and just cheap white acrylic paint. Thought I might as well put some white in there. Mixed together to just give it all a skin. Dries very quickly. And then, I mean not that quickly, but it does dry very quickly. And then sanding the edges. I've been covered in dust for 2 weeks, but it's very satisfying because you get these lovely round edges and they're just smooth. Particularly smooth when you put on some polyfiller or spackle. Use a wetted finger. If you don't like that phrase, then DIY is not for you, because you get told to use a wetted finger quite a lot. So I'm just I've wetted my finger and my appetite, and I'm filling in any gaps, any remaining gaps between the panels. Then at this point you remember that there's a little triangular prism ramp bit on the back that you forgot. So this is made out of 2 bits of veneered chipboard from the back of an old cupboard. And because these corners are a funny angle, I'm just using very thin black styrene to cap them off and sand the edges smooth. Still not done. Okay, for the back drain pipe, I think this is the last thing. Let's cap off the drain pipe with a peanut butter jar lid that just happened to fit exactly over the drain pipe. Then I've doubled the width of that with some self-adhesive EVA foam, put a ring of EVA foam around the drain pipe so that it just holds on with pressure, which I'm quite happy about. And then so that I can paint that EVA foam, you could coat it in Plastidip or Mod Podge, but I'm just coating it in a layer of lightly sanded black vinyl tape. And that's the basic body. The wand. It's not just a good Flaming Lips song, it's a weird, highly detailed prong that goes down the side of this incinerator unit. It's lots of pens and pen lids and bits of ribbed conduit. For the spine I'm using a metal drinking straw that I had in my box of tubes, and then just to make all the pens fit over it I'm using once again sticky backed EVA foam. Just wrap it around until the pen fits exactly over it. If you put on slightly too much, just cut some off and try again. This lined bit is a pen lid, that's a little bit of fine detailing tape. This is some ribbed conduit cable, and this is just a clip from somewhere that fits over it very nicely. This stuff, love this stuff. This is kitchen cabinet or kitchen drawer liner to stop things from sliding around in drawers. Very thin ribbed plastic stuck on with some double-sided carpet tape. Toy destruction, this is a gunship little dinghy G.I. Joe thing I found in a charity shop and I liked its guns. We're attaching a smaller prong to the prong. Or is it a probe? It's a wand, it's a space wand. And just really enjoyable. It took a day to make, but an enjoyable build. Tanks. Gas tanks. Oh, hello. Let's destroy some more toys. Just rip this little fella's arm off, and that's the bit we need. This blue bit is the nubbin off the Mega Block that I made my Ghostbusters walkie-talkie with. Kept that, and I was determined this white bit was going to fit into it. Just needed a bit of pressure, so I put a glove on so it wouldn't hurt my hand as I pressed down on it. Much. If I hit it with a hammer it would have broken, so what can you do? To make it thick enough to take, I think this is a chrome ring, I think it's from my mum's old towel rail. It's one of those bits I just put in my pocket for later. Again, just wrap tape around the thing you need to fit inside the other thing. And I put on slightly too much, so you just unwind a bit and you make an exact pressure fit and it's all very snug. Then cut around and remove the tape that you don't need. And this is a capsule shaped piece of wood for the sort of capital D bit that goes on the end. This is the plastic toilet brush handle, which fits just inside this ribbed conduit tubing, so that's going to help keep that rigid. Febreze, thank you to Febreze for giving me loads and loads of money to use their products in this video. Just sanding it down so it takes paint. Nice thing about this is you can really sand it at the end and you reveal actual metal underneath. So again, a different sized bit of ribbed tubing I had that just fits exactly into the neck of an air freshener can, and just putting in dots of super glue and then dots of super glue, lots of hot glue. Dots, then lots. To make a peg that goes down into that neck, this is just an orange bit that is off the bath toy and fits inside the white part, and I'm just pushing that down again into a lot of hot glue, but also with a big long, like a floorboard screw going down into the can. You have to do this in a certain order because there's one screw that goes down and then one that goes across, and I nearly put that one on. You know, there's a lot of sitting and thinking and getting it right. So here to attach the wooden D, I've just used one of my self-tapping screws, which is just a screw-shaped peg, and again wrapped it in a load of tape to make it exactly the right size for the hole it needs to go into, and then wedge that in there, embed it with hot glue. Let's destroy some more toys. This is a Playmobil ambulance helicopter, an air ambulance, which had just the right curve. There are two different types of this part on this prop, and I happened to decide to make the slightly simpler one. Yeah, this is just a bit of plastic I think I probably found on the ground, just a strip of plastic with some sides just to tidy up that end. Then another one of these self-tapping screws that goes into the solid plastic toilet brush handle. And though this looks like it's a chance pressure fit, actually I used my hot pyrography tool to melt out the hole inside the radiator cap and open the window, because burning plastic really honks, and things that honk are almost certainly bad for you. There's a hexagonal piece on this ribbed tube. This time I'm using a nut and bolt, but actually I replace it with a slightly larger hexagon in a bit because it looks more right. And then to the back of that tube I've attached just a big piece of square dowel that I've curved with my rotary tool so it fits flush with the back of the pipe, and put that screw straight through into that bit of wood. The bottom rounded bits of these canisters are Christmas baubles, which I put a lot of 5-minute epoxy, they say 5-minute epoxy. I put a lot of epoxy, 2-part epoxy in there, stuck it on, taped it down with thin masking tape, and I think left it overnight. 5 minutes is no. But it's amazing how much you can sand this smooth. I'm very impressed with that join. As I said, I wanted to update the hexagon to make it more the right size, and with my mitre shears I know that it just needs to be 60 degrees. Done. It was hard to decide what are the chapter markers in this, and I've moved a lot of footage around and it's not chronological. I kind of jumped around like a lunatic in terms of, well, while that's drying I'll do this, and well, there are just so many elements. This is not a simple prop. It's simply made, but it's not a simple thing. So on the outside of the muzzle emitter thing, I'm putting 2 strips of thin HD foam, cut more than you need, stretch it all the way around, and then cut the 2 ends flush. And because I know this is going to be covered in a skin of, as we see here, super glue and baking soda, and then primer, and then paint, sticking the initial strips on just with double-sided tape is fine, because it's going to be embedded, really quite embedded. Bevels. I thought long and hard, how am I going to do these bevels? Should I make a special jig that holds my knife at a certain angle? Should I buy a chamfering tool, which I actually did and ended up not using, but I will in future? Just do it by hand. It's that ice cream sign I've used before, so it's thick, very soft plastic with a thin layer of styrene, which here I've put on the back. In the end I found it's easier if you hold the standing knife like a pen and just pull, concentrate, hold the angle, hold your nerve, and you've got a bevel. Handmade artisanal bevels. Greeblin montage! I don't know whether to do a piece of music that's just Greeblin montage, but I like telling you what the greeblies are. They are lateral flow tests with a bit of black styrene stuck over the top. That's a coffee filter and 2 bits of clothes peg. This is ribbed rubber floor mat. This is a bit of broken calculator I found outside our local nail salon. This panel is the lid of a pill box and some stickers and some Warhammer toy that a viewer very kindly sent me. That's the side of a toy train and a yellow plastic clip with the window from a lateral flow test stuck to it. This is again the other end of that lozenge shaped piece of wood with 2 curves of fridge magnet stuck either side of it and some detail tape. This is the spine of a DVD case down which I've put little metal coins with a square hole in the middle, held on with small split pins. This is the plastic zip from a Ziploc document folder. Stick that onto a box folder locker and another bit of lateral flow test, and you've got a, whatever that is. Box of lids I got from scrap that have these nice trapezoid tabs on with 4 lines that just look like something. More of the Batcave playset I got again from a charity shop for about £1.50, even though it's like this big. And I'm cutting little windows out of cereal box, fruit and fibre I believe. With stickers, remember you can use the sprue around the sticker as well as the sticker itself. These stickers are good because they're like card, they're thick, and I just needed some strips to make a series of little weird shaped squares. That was the floats from the bottom of the Playmobil air ambulance, and I thought, I wonder if these caps, these little front feet, fit over this conduit tubing. Nearly. As you can see there's a slight depth difference. So I figured out, rather than trying to flatten the back of the tube, the simplest thing to do here was just use my rotary tool to Dremel a bevel. No, that's not a bevel and it's not a Dremel. Dig a trench that the pipe fits into. Then I've put in 4 tabs of, again, double-sided carpet tape, but then also I'm swamping the trench with super glue and chucking a bunch of baking soda in there. To keep this tube rigid, there's a piece of dowel at that end and then a small piece of dowel there, but leave the curve empty. So you've got two straight bits with a hinge in the middle. And it's finally time to attach the drain pipe, so I've screwed down into that diagonal square piece and also up into the bottom, because I don't want to attach anything with just one screw. Painting. So here, using sticky foam tabs from sellotape, I'm attaching all my greeblies to a piece of card so I can prime them separately. Why? Because I want to prime them with ordinary thin white plastic primer. There's also some black bits there, but I want to prime the body of the gun with spray putty, which is a very thick, very smooth, gap-filling primer. That's the stuff there. But I don't want to put that on my greeblies because it'll kind of swamp all the detail. But it does sand very smooth. So again, prime and sand, prime and sand. Then let's do some more detailing. As I said, this is all in slightly a weird order. I'm just attaching bits of, this is rainbow ribbon cable, which is really nice for detail. But there's also bits of glue sticks and felt tip pens and various tubes. Let's attach the wand. For the back screw, I've removed a cap that was already on there, which I know will hide that screw. And then for the front screw, cover it with a bit of plastic pipe. Then super glue over the other one and put on this clip. Time to face up to the fact that I have to drill into this front piece, even though I think it's going to break. But it turned out to be fine. Just used my step bit. Covered the whole thing in 2-part epoxy to make it thicker and tougher, and then I've skinned it all in super glue and baking soda to make it hammered, rough texture. More detailing on the gas tanks. This is a black coloured in washer and a big bolt out of the foot of some furniture that we didn't use. On the original prop, these gas tanks are not stuck together, but they felt a bit flimsy because they're both attached just with one screw, and they were so close together I thought, let's stick them. So where the two tanks touch, I've just sanded them, scraped it in there, back down to the silver metal, and I'm just putting a blob of 5-minute epoxy in there and using 2 cable ties to hold it together and leave those strapped together for a day. This is the right angle plug bit that the pipe that comes out of the emitter at the front comes out of. The bottom is a bit of vape stick I found on the ground. The white bit is the inside of a hay fever spray. Then there's a big black marker pen cap into which I put a little bit of black felt tip pen. And now, because these are supposed to be rubber, I'm just stippling it all over with some matte black enamel paint that also has a bit of Mod Podge in it to thicken it up. And here's an adventure. Right then, I am incredibly close to this being finished, and I was attaching, there's a tube that comes out of the bottom of this one. So I'd put a screw through this half Christmas bauble, tried to push the pipe on, and the screw went inside. So that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, but I've had what might be a clever idea, and if it goes well, I want it documenting. This is a chopstick. These are very strong little neodymium magnets. You see where I'm going with this? Obviously I've tried inverting the unit and just shaking it around and hoping it comes out like the candies in a jar from Super Mario Party, but that didn't work, and I suddenly thought, I wonder if magnet fishing is the answer. Okay, great rehearsal everyone. Let's go for a take. Right, I've got the screw. The screw is got. Is it sideways? Is it lengthways? I don't know. And now I've lost the magnets. Yeah, in the end I just shook it around till it fell out. Done. Little vloggy moment. So this is how it ended up being. I just drilled out that hole big enough that I could put a little piece of wooden broom handle in there. I just covered it over in super glue and baking soda, then sanded it and just hit it with a little bit more white paint. This screw is now going down into about 2 inches of wood, so it's actually a lot stronger than it was. This is an improvement. Then, speaking of improvements, this whole gas unit is just held on with that one screw underneath. and it just felt flimsy. It felt like knock it from the side and it will come off. So although this is in no way screen accurate, I'm giving it another contact point. It's a wooden puzzle piece I've coloured in silver with a pen, and then over the bolt I'm putting a latch clip that you get from a sliding lock that's just holding that bolt in place, and it's much stronger. Let's weather, the good bit. This is the fun bit, particularly of this prop, because it's so, you know. So one weathering stage I didn't film is I've dusted it all over just with chrome paint, so it has silver speckle all over it. That's the first layer of just get some detail and texture in there. And then hitting the edges with an emery board. So a light sanding gets you the white paint, and then a heavier sanding you get the primer, but you don't want to sand down to wood. Dry brushing the edges. This is a brush that I've just used to paint something else black, so it's nearly exhausted of black paint. Nearly dry, and you just scrape it. So you're not painting a line, you're just scraping a nearly dry brush diagonally along the edges. And then I'm also dusting it because this thing is very sooty and kind of burnt looking for obvious reasons. So I'm just dusting it into all the crooks and nannies. So I noticed on the old 30-year-old prop that Prop Store sold that this part and the two front tubes are clearly made of brass. So I thought, let's be bold. Let's be bold and colour it gold. And then if that feels a bit hard and a bit drawn on by you, I'm just drawing some gold ink onto this scratchy sponge and just scuffing it in to soften that edge line and just add some general chipping. Still adding details? Yep. More pipes. So this is a big thick, I think it's a computer cable or like an old SCART lead or something. But on the original prop, it's 2 bits of pipe. So I'm just faking the connector with a felt tip pen lid and a bit of soap bottle pump tube, then making this hook that holds it in place out of the hook from a broken coat hanger. Just bend it with 2 pairs of pliers, gently hammer it in, and then again I noticed on the prop that this bit is a brass part that's been painted over. So I thought, well, if I colour in this conduit up to the connector with my gold pen, then I can paint over it later and do another chipping effect. This is the forgotten Greebly, the lost Greebly. There are so many that I happen to forget one. Like in Home Alone when they leave Kevin back at the house because they've got too many kids. This is a little square tab and 4 prongs off a plastic cone, but I cut out the middle 2 to make just 2 prongs and a square that I happen to miss off. Agrax Earthshade. Using that like it's going out of style. And when you're doing washes, you realise this is better than water. It has flow improver in it, so its flow is improved. Simple as that. So yeah, I'm using both Agrax Earthshade and little bits of Dirty Down Rust, which is a lovely rust effect paint and is slightly warmer, it's more orange. So this is mostly a black wash, just black acrylic paint and water, but with a good glug of Agrax Earthshade in it. So it's both slightly brown and very oily and runny, and it's a joy to use. They do good work. Citadel Colour, your products are good. Particularly on something with lots of detail, just all these details that you've spent 2 weeks making, they just pop, a nice oily pop. And then if you've over smothered them, a Q-tip or cotton bud, I got through about half a box of these things, just go over and wipe it off again. How do you get the paint down into all these embroidery mesh squares? With a toothbrush. And then yeah, the brass tube, which needs to be covered in chipping off white paint, wait 5 to 10 minutes and it's dry. This is just ordinary like acrylic paint, and then I'm hitting it hard enough with an emery board that it just scratches it down to the gold pen. I also put on some little dots of gold pen as well, which are actually under the white in the narrative of the object. And then again I thought I'd lost some detail from the muzzle bit, the emitter, the mouth, the head, the brain, I don't know what the parts of an incinerator unit are called. Liquid chrome pen. Just run the side of the nib along the sides and fine details of the thing, and it looks nice and scratched. Then, so that it's not too soft, and you know, you can do soft shadows and it all looks a bit airbrushed, do a toothbrush pass. Never mind airbrush, what about toothbrush? And you get all these little high-res freckles. So yeah, the whole thing is covered in spits and spots of muck. I did wipe some off in areas where I didn't like them, but it just gives it all some detail. Then this is a second attempt at attaching this pipe because I did it prematurely and it got snapped off. So 5-minute epoxy, tape it in place with thin masking tape, and I didn't touch it for 2 hours. And now that tube is attached. Final thing, let me just check before I promise. I'm just going to skip ahead and check. Yes, okay. So we're going to go back to the strap shot in 3, 2, 1, and we're off. Final thing, the strap. I had the right hardware, the right buckles and clips on a black leather, just an old bag strap I've got in my bit box, but it's the canvas strap that's more screen accurate. And I've seen enough Drag Race to know that hot glue will hold material pretty strongly, but I did just have a fear of, like when a guitar strap comes unhooked and you just boom, and you hear that bang. So as well as hot glue, I'm probably unnecessarily, but also I've been enjoying sewing lately, stitching it on there as well, doing a back stitch. So you go under 2 stitches, back 1, under 2 stitches, back 1, under 2 stitches, back 1, and that's a back stitch. Clip it on there, and you're ready to torch some Xenos. Thank you, templates. You served well. Now you may rest. As may we. Let's take a look at the finished thing. Scary stuff. So as I say, there will be more alien stuff along on the channel fairly soon, some Lovecrafty things, a bit of a collab. Thank you very much for watching. It's a long video, I know, but I didn't want to split it in 2. This episode's channel recommendation is Bill making stuff. He makes stuff and he makes it very well. If you like industrial things that are all crusty and made out of household junk and covered in dirt and rust and stuff, then he's your guy. Wonderful miniatures, wonderful creatures, highly recommended. And you've probably heard of him already. Please do consider visiting my Patreon. You can sign up for as little as $3 a month. But yes, if you want to become a patron of mine, that would be absolutely incredible and awesome. Thank you very, very much for watching. Lots of love from me, and I will see you soon.